Why we seek connection. In the beginning, before words, before societies, before the first fire was coaxed into flame, there was a longing, a pull, a subtle gravitational force threading one being to another. Even in the earliest moments of human emergence, connection was more than a preference. It was a lifeline, a compass, a quiet instruction written into the body, the brain, and the unfolding story of our species. Tonight, we explore that longing, the deep human need, not only to survive, but to feel understood, valued, and held within the fabric of a community. We travel through evolution and memory, through biology and myth, through the soft spaces of emotion and the vast architecture of the social brain. We trace the origins of the bonds that shape us, the ties that break us, and the connections that make life meaningful. As we begin, you might allow a gentle breath to rise and fall, not as a cue or requirement, but as a natural rhythm to accompany the arc of this story. A moment of softening prepares the mind for a deeper journey to how profoundly connection has sculpted who we are. Imagine a world without companionship, a world where no voice answers yours in the dark, no hand reaches out when you stumble, no eyes reflect your existence. Such a world never truly belonged to us. From the earliest ancestors to the modern human, our lives have been intertwined. Our nervous systems attuned themselves to one another long before written language. The simple presence of another being has always shaped our bodies, our emotions, and our sense of reality. Connection was not an invention. It was an inheritance. It began with warmth, with breath, with the instinct to cradle, to protect, to move toward life and not away from it. Those early gestures became the blueprint for relationship, and over millions of years, they evolved into the networks of family, friendship, culture, and community. As we begin this journey, think of connection not as something we seek because we are weak or incomplete, but because we are human. The desire to be close, to be known, to belong, has guided migrations, built civilizations, inspired art, shaped moral systems, and brought comfort to countless lives. Even now, as the world grows noisier and more complex, that ancient longing remains unchanged. In a moment, we return to the cradle of humanity, to the small, fragile beginnings where the first bonds were formed. But before we step back through time, let the pace settle a little. Let the thoughts loosen. The story ahead unfolds slowly, like dusk stretching across a quiet horizon, guiding us deeper into the mystery of why we reach for one another. When you are ready, we move into the origins of the first bonds. The first bonds. Before language carried meaning, before tools carved their utility into the world, there was the first bond. A newborn held close against a caregiver's chest, skin against skin, warmth against cold air, a heartbeat answering another heartbeat. This was humanity's earliest form of communication, a dialogue made not of syllables, but of presence. The story of connection begins here, in the fragile beginning of life, where survival depends not on strength, but on closeness. The infant arrives unfinished, dependent, wired to seek a face, a voice, a rhythm of breath. Long before consciousness fully forms, the body already knows that safety lives in relationship. Across the vast stretches of early human evolution, these bonds shaped everything. The infants who stayed close, who cried and were met with the touch rather than silence, survived. The caregivers who responded, who held, rocked, and fed these young, passed on their genes, their instincts, their social patterns. Generation after generation, biology became behavior, and behavior became the architecture of connection. Imagine a small band of early humans moving through grasslands or wooded terrain. A mother carries her child on her hip, the child's small hand gripping her skin. Every movement sends a message through touch. Every shared gaze reaffirms recognition. The group protects its young not as a burden, but as a necessity. There was no survival without cooperation, and there was no cooperation without emotional bonds. Even now, traces of those ancient rhythms remain in us. A newborn knows to search for a face. The pupils widen in recognition. The breath steadies when held. The nervous system of the infant synchronizes with the caregiver's heartbeat, forming a duet that regulates fear, hunger, and early emotion. This synchrony is more than comfort. It is the foundation upon which the developing brain builds its sense of the world. These early bonds are the first blueprint for trust, the first template for how love is felt, the first shape of belonging. Over time, the infant begins to form an inner map, a quiet expectation that the world can be safe, that connection is available, that their signals will be met with answers. These early experiences ripple through a lifetime, influencing friendships, partnerships, self-worth, and the ability to give and receive care. Across cultures and centuries, humans have designed rituals around the beginnings of life that honor this moment. Songs sung to infants, naming ceremonies, communities gathering to welcome a child. These traditions express something fundamental. Every new life enters the world needing others, and every society understands, consciously or not, that connection is the thread that ties one generation to the next. As we reflect on this early chapter of the human story, the pace can soften for a moment. A breath may fall gently into place, allowing the mind to settle into the understanding that our longing for connection did not arise from weakness or loneliness. It arose from our origins, from the biology of survival, from the ancient truth that life becomes possible only through the presence of another. In these first bonds, humanity learned its most enduring lesson. To be alive is to be connected. To form relationships is to continue the story written long before memory. And as we move forward, deeper into evolution, we begin to see how these simple beginnings shaped the entire architecture of the human brain. We now enter the realm of the social brain, the evolutionary masterpiece that made connection not just a possibility, but a necessity woven into every layer of human life. The social brain. As humanity evolved, the world grew more complex. Landscapes shifted, climates changed, predators adapted. Survival demanded more than strength or speed. It required coordination, communication, and cooperation. Out of this pressure, the human brain transformed into one of the most socially attuned systems on Earth. Long before cities rose, or stories were shared around firelight, early humans faced challenges that no individual could overcome alone. Hunting large animals required strategy. Protecting young required collaboration. Navigating conflict required negotiation. Over time, natural selection favored those who could read emotions, anticipate intentions, and form alliances. The brain that emerged from this evolutionary journey became a profoundly social organ. Entire neural networks developed to process faces, tone of voice, gestures, and the subtle energy of another person's presence. These systems became our navigation tools, allowing us to sense belonging, danger, acceptance, or rejection with remarkable precision. One of the most remarkable features of this social brain is its capacity for mirroring. When we see someone else smile, neurons in our brain echo that smile, activating circuits associated with warmth and reward. When someone flinches, we feel a faint ripple of their discomfort in our own body. This mirroring system became the foundation of empathy, helping groups coordinate, learn, and protect one another. In small early communities, cooperation was not optional. Individuals who could not understand the signals of others, who could not sense fear, trust, or anger, faced isolation, and isolation meant vulnerability. But those who bonded easily, who communicated well, who worked together, gained advantages that shaped the trajectory of their lineage. As human societies grew, so did the complexity of our social understanding. We learned to interpret not only immediate emotions, but motivations, beliefs, and unspoken desires. The brain began constructing models of other minds' predictions about what others might think or feel. This ability, known as theory of mind, became one of the most defining features of human cognition. It allowed us to cooperate in sophisticated ways, to share plans, to imagine the intentions of others, and to build trust beyond the surface level. This cognitive leap also brought with it new emotional landscapes. The capacity to imagine rejection introduced the sting of shame. The desire for acceptance gave rise to pride. The awareness of others' perceptions shaped our identity. Connection became not just a biological need, but a psychological compass, guiding how we behave, how we speak, and how we understand ourselves. The social brain is both resilient and delicate. It thrives in the presence of supportive relationships. It weakens under chronic isolation. When we feel seen, understood, or valued, our neural circuits light with reward, calming stress, and enhancing well-being. When we feel excluded, those same circuits register pain, activating regions similar to those involved in physical injury. In this way, connection became not simply a preference, but a survival mechanism tied to the deepest layers of the nervous system. As modern humans, we carry this ancient architecture with us. Even in a crowded world, our brains still search for safety in the eyes of another person, still seek shared understanding, still lean toward those who offer warmth or familiarity. The instinct to connect is not a cultural invention. It is an evolutionary inheritance encoded in every breath and heartbeat. Allow a moment of ease as this idea settles. A slow inhale, a quiet exhale. The knowledge that our brains are designed for connection can soften the edges of loneliness and deepen appreciation for the bonds we form. We are not alone because we want company. We are wired to be together. From here, we step into another dimension of connection. Not the biological mechanics of the brain, but the emotional language that allows us to bridge the space between minds. The next chapter unfolds the story of how feelings became signals, guiding us toward understanding one another. We now enter the realm of emotion as communication. Emotion as communication. Long before humans created written language, long before spoken words carried stories across generations, emotion served as the earliest and most universal medium of communication. A raised eyebrow, a tremble in the voice, a widening of the eyes, a softening of the shoulders. These signals conveyed meaning long before vocabulary existed to describe them. Emotion began as an internal compass, a way for the body to detect danger, safety, hunger, comfort, or opportunity. But as our species evolved into deeply social beings, those internal signals transformed into social messages. Fear told the group to stay alert. Joy signaled that conditions were favorable. Sadness invited comfort and support. Anger warned of boundaries being crossed. These emotional cues shaped collective behavior and strengthened bonds between individuals. Imagine early humans gathered beneath a canopy of trees, the fire flickering as the night encroaches. One member suddenly tenses, eyes fixed on the darkness. Before a single word is spoken, the entire group feels the shift. The emotional signal travels through the air like a ripple on water. Bodies prepare. Attention sharpens. A shared awareness forms, creating cohesion and readiness. This is emotion as communication, as survival, as connection. Over millennia, this emotional synchrony became increasingly sophisticated. Humans developed the ability not just to feel emotions, but to recognize them in others. This ability allowed individuals to predict intentions, anticipate needs, and respond with empathy. A parent senses a child's distress from a single cry. A friend notices a subtle change in posture and knows something is wrong. A community feels the joy of a celebration as if it were a shared heartbeat. Emotions became bridges linking one nervous system to another. Even today, when someone near us experiences strong emotion, our bodies respond. The heart rate shifts, breathing adjusts, muscles tense or soften. This resonance is not metaphorical, it is physiological. Neural circuits designed for social survival allow us to absorb and interpret the emotions of others with remarkable accuracy. This emotional mirroring helps us build trust. When someone sees our joy and shares it, we feel understood. When someone senses our sadness and responds with compassion, a bond deepens. When anger is met with steady presence rather than threat, the possibility for resolution emerges. Through these exchanges, relationships take shape, forming patterns that guide the heart and the mind. But emotions do more than express momentary states. They shape the narratives we build about ourselves and others. A childhood filled with consistent warmth teaches the brain that connection is safe. A childhood marked by emotional inconsistency teaches the opposite. These early emotional exchanges create templates for future relationships, influencing how we love, how we cope, and how we seek belonging. As cultures evolved, emotion began influencing rituals, traditions, and social structures. Ceremonies for birth, marriage, and mourning became shared emotional experiences that brought communities together. Collective joy reinforced unity. Collective grief strengthened solidarity. Through these rituals, emotion carved pathways into the identity of entire societies. In modern life, emotions still serve as our primary language beneath words. A text message may deliver meaning, but a face-to-face expression reveals truth. A voice carries tone, subtle inflections that activate instinctive, ancient pathways. Even silence contains emotional information, shaping our perceptions of closeness or distance. Take a gentle breath and let it settle. Notice how emotion itself is a form of connection, not something we control, but something we share. A universal, biological, and deeply human rhythm that allows us to feel one another's inner worlds. As we move forward, we turn our attention to the place where these emotional templates are first formed. The crucible of early life, where belonging takes shape. The environment where patterns of connection are learned, repeated, and carried into adulthood. We now enter the realm of childhood and belonging. Childhood and belonging. Connection begins early, in the quiet space where a child learns what the world feels like, whether it is warm or cold, whether comfort arrives or remains distant, whether reaching out is rewarded with safety or met with uncertainty. These early experiences form the architecture of belonging, sculpting the emotional blueprint that shapes relationships for the rest of life. An infant does not think in words. The mind is still forming, still gathering impressions from tone, touch, rhythm, and presence. But the body knows. The nervous system absorbs everything. A caregiver's smile becomes a signal that the world is welcoming. A soothing voice teaches that distress can be eased. A steady, reliable presence creates an internal sense of trust that becomes the foundation for healthy attachment. This early dance between caregiver and child is known as attunement. When a caregiver notices a child's emotion, mirrors it, and responds with sensitivity, the child's brain begins wiring itself to expect that emotions can be met, soothed, and understood. This simple, repeated pattern becomes a lifelong compass, directing how we relate to others, how we comfort ourselves, and how we experience intimacy. Over time, these patterns form what psychologists call attachment styles. Not fixed labels, but tendencies shaped by early emotional exchanges. A child who experiences consistent, warm care often develops secure attachment, learning that closeness is safe and that independence is supported. This foundation becomes a steady internal platform from which the child can explore the world, confident that they are not alone. A child who experiences unpredictability may develop anxious patterns, always watching, always sensing for signs of change, always unsure whether their needs will be met. Closeness becomes something both desired and feared, full of longing, but shadowed by uncertainty. A child who experiences emotional distance may develop avoidant patterns, learning that connection is unreliable and that self-reliance is safer. Such a child grows into someone who protects their vulnerability, who feels safest when emotions remain contained, who approaches closeness with caution. These early adaptations are not failures. They are intelligent responses to the environment. The brain shapes itself to survive. It forms strategies that make sense in context. But as we move into adulthood, these early patterns continue to influence how we trust, how we love, and how we interpret the emotional world around us. Belonging in childhood extends beyond the caregiver. It unfolds in the family system, in cultural traditions, in the rhythms of community. Children observe how relationships work by watching those around them. They learn what love looks like, how conflict is resolved, how emotions are expressed, and who is allowed to be vulnerable. These early lessons become unconscious scripts we carry through life, guiding our social instincts long after childhood fades into memory. Play also teaches the foundations of belonging. Through play, children experiment with cooperation, fairness, rules, and empathy. They learn to read faces, to share, to negotiate, to understand the minds of others. These simple interactions are the earliest training grounds for social intelligence. Every laugh shared with a friend, every small argument resolved, every imaginative game co-created, all of it shapes neural networks designed for human connection. And yet, childhood is also where the first wounds form. Rejection, loneliness, misunderstandings, or emotional neglect leave impressions that echo through the years. The child who felt unseen may grow into an adult who fears invisibility. The child who felt criticized may become an adult who expects judgment. The child who felt unsupported may fear leaning on others. These early emotional imprints become the backdrop of self-perception. But they are not destiny. The brain remains capable of rewiring throughout life. New relationships, new experiences of safety, new emotional patterns can reshape what childhood taught. Connection heals the very injuries that disconnection created. Let a soft breath rise and fall here, a gentle moment to acknowledge that every person's emotional inheritance is unique. Some began life in the warmth of consistent love. Others learned to navigate unpredictable terrain. Yet all of us were shaped by the search for belonging. As we move forward, we enter the realm where biology and emotion intertwine more explicitly. The chemistry that binds us, the neural pathways that make closeness feel rewarding, the invisible currents beneath every hug, every shared smile, every moment of trust. Next, we explore the biology of bonding. The biology of bonding. Beneath every embrace, every shared laugh, every moment of deep understanding, a quiet symphony unfolds within the body. Bonding is not only emotional or psychological, it is profoundly biological. A network of hormones, neurotransmitters, and neural circuits works together to transform relationships into lived experiences that shape our inner world. At the center of this intricate system is oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. Oxytocin is released during moments of closeness, a warm touch, a gentle conversation, a shared gaze, a sense of trust forming. When oxytocin flows through the bloodstream and the brain, it softens defenses. It enhances feelings of safety. It reduces fear. It deepens the sense that another person matters. But oxytocin is only one part of the story. Dopamine adds another dimension, offering reward and motivation. When we connect with someone who brings us joy, dopamine reinforces the behavior, teaching the brain that closeness is valuable and worth seeking again. This creates anticipation, excitement, and a kind of emotional momentum toward relationships. Serotonin contributes stability, grounding the emotional experience. It supports mood regulation and adds a sense of calm satisfaction to bonding. When we feel appreciated, respected, or connected within a social group, serotonin levels rise, strengthening feelings of belonging and self-worth. Endorphins weave into the picture as well, bringing warmth and subtle euphoria. Shared laughter, physical affection, singing in a group, or even working together toward a common goal releases endorphins, creating a soft glow of connection that encourages collective harmony. Together, these chemicals form a biological language that shapes how we relate, trust, love, and attach. Every social moment becomes a dialogue between bodies as much as between minds. Imagine two close friends meeting after a long time apart. As they hug, oxytocin floods their system. Dopamine sparks recognition and joy. Serotonin stabilizes the warmth of the reunion. Endorphins soften emotional edges. The experience feels effortless, not because it requires no energy, but because biology and emotion merge into a single, unified response that tells both people, this is safe, this is meaningful, this is connection. In romantic bonding, this chemical dialogue intensifies. Early stages of love often ignite a powerful dopamine surge, creating a sense of exhilaration and deep focus on the beloved. Oxytocin deepens trust. Serotonin modulates mood. Endorphins provide emotional steadiness. Over time, this neurochemical blend shifts from passionate intensity to a calmer, more enduring form of attachment that supports long-term closeness and mutual care. Even friendships follow similar biological rhythms. Shared experiences, vulnerability, and consistent presence strengthen neural pathways that associate the friend with comfort, stability, and joy. Over years, these pathways become deeply embedded, shaping identity, memory, and the sense of who we are in relation to others. In families, the biology of bonding plays an essential role in survival. Caregivers form deep attachments to children, not only through emotion, but through powerful hormonal responses triggered by touch, sound, and eye contact. These biological systems ensure protection, patience, and nurturing traits that evolve to give the next generation the best chance at life. Humans also bond through shared challenges. When people work together under stress or uncertainty, their bodies release chemicals that synchronize their emotional states. Oxytocin increases trust. Endorphins reduce the impact of stress. These biological shifts create solidarity, a sense of we are in this together, which strengthens social cohesion. But connection is not only about closeness, it also involves separation. When distance or conflict threatens a bond, the body reacts. Stress hormones rise. The nervous system becomes alert. This reaction is not a flaw. It is the body acknowledging the absence of something essential. Just as physical pain signals danger to the body, emotional pain signals the risk of losing connection. This is why heartbreak hurts, why loneliness aches, why the loss of a loved one can feel physically overwhelming. The biology that once ensured safety through proximity now signals danger when connection is threatened. It is a biological reminder that humans are not built to navigate existence alone. Take a soft breath here. Let the idea settle gently. Connection is not merely a preference or desire. It is a physiological process, deeply embedded in the body's systems. To reach for another person is to activate ancient pathways designed to protect us, nurture us, and guide us toward belonging. As we move forward, we turn our attention to a pivotal chapter in human evolution, where bonding extended beyond families and small groups. A time when survival depended on cooperation, shared labor, and collective identity. A time when humanity learned that connection was not only intimate, but communal. Next, we explore connection in ancient tribes. Connection in ancient tribes. To understand why humans seek connection, we must step back into the world where our species spent most of its existence. A world of open plains, dense forests, shifting landscapes, and small bands of people moving together in search of shelter, food, and safety. For nearly all of human history, we lived not as isolated individuals, but as members of tightly woven tribes. In those ancient communities, connection was not sentimental. It was survival. Every person mattered. Every relationship carried weight. The strength of the group determined the fate of each individual. Imagine a circle of 20 to 50 people gathered beneath a sky illuminated by stars untouched by city light. A fire burns at the center. Sparks rise into the darkness and vanish. Children sleep close to their parents. Elders sit nearby, their eyes reflecting the flame. Tools are passed, food is shared, stories are spoken softly into the night. The tribe moves as one organism, each person contributing to the whole. This was the cradle of human social life. Cooperation shaped everything. Hunting required coordination and trust. Foraging demanded shared knowledge. Protecting the young meant vigilance and shared responsibility. Caring for the sick meant compassion and effort. No one person held all the skills necessary to survive, but together the tribe formed a complete system. Connection became the invisible thread holding this system together. Within these small groups, each individual had a place not earned through competition, but through participation. Identity was woven from contribution. Belonging was not a reward, it was a birthright. Children grew knowing dozens of hands would guide them. Adults lived knowing they were supported. Elders carried memory and wisdom, treasured for what they gave, rather than marginalized for what they lacked. These patterns form the psychological roots of belonging. Humans evolved to detect the mood of the group. Subtle cues determined harmony or discord. A quiet shift in posture might signal conflict. A laugh could dissolve tension. Emotional intelligence was not a nice trait. It was an essential tool for maintaining cohesion. Those who could read the social environment thrived. Those who couldn't risked isolation, and isolation meant danger. Trust became the currency of ancient life. Shared meals built trust. Shared labor reinforced it. Shared storytelling wove individual experiences into a collective narrative. Rituals synchronized minds and bodies, binding everyone into a unified emotional rhythm. These practices strengthened bonds so deeply that betrayal became one of the most devastating injuries a person could inflict or endure. In this environment, the human brain developed its intricate social wiring, the ability to form deep bonds, the need for acceptance, the fear of exclusion, the longing to contribute, the comfort of being known. These traits were not accidents. They were sculpted over thousands of generations by the demands of communal life. The tribe was not only a physical reality, but a psychological one. Long after tribes transformed into villages, towns, and nations, the ancient brain continued to seek the emotional architecture of those early social worlds. We still crave roles, rituals, shared meaning, and cohesive groups. We still instinctively read social cues, monitor group dynamics, and respond to subtle shifts in belonging. Even now, in a modern world of millions, our nervous system is calibrated for a tribe-sized community. The brain does not easily differentiate between physical isolation and emotional isolation. The lingering ache of loneliness echoes the fear of separation from the tribe. The warmth of companionship reflects the ancestral safety of belonging. Allow a slow breath here as the imagination settles into this ancient world. The roots of connection stretch far beneath modern civilization, intertwining with our oldest memories as a species. To seek belonging is to align with our evolutionary design. To reach for one another is to follow the wisdom of our ancestors. As the human story grew more complex, so did the ways we formed connection. Beyond cooperation and shared survival, humans discovered a powerful tool for uniting minds and shaping collective identity. We now enter the realm of myth, story, and community, the bridge between ancient tribes and the worlds humans would later build together. Myth, story, and community. As human groups grew, something extraordinary began to shape our collective life. Beyond the practical needs of survival, beyond the coordination of hunting or gathering, a new force emerged, powerful, invisible, and transformative. It was the force of story, myth, narrative, shared imagination. The ability to take the raw material of experience and weave it into meaning. Around ancient fires, long before written language, humans began telling stories that explained the world, soothed fears, preserved knowledge, and united hearts. Storytelling became the emotional bloodstream of the tribe, carrying wisdom from one generation to the next, binding individuals together with shared understanding. Myths were not idle fantasies. They were psychological maps. They answered questions that couldn't be solved by observation alone. Why does the sun return? What happens after death? How should we treat one another? These stories provided coherence in a chaotic world, and through them, groups learned to synchronize their beliefs, values, and identities. Imagine a night thousands of years ago. The fire glows softly, shadows swaying at the edges of the circle. An elder speaks, their voice steady and rhythmic. Children lean closer. Adults listen in silence. In that moment, dozens of minds drink from the same story. Dozens of imaginations move together. Emotion flows through the group in a unified current. Awe, fear, hope, wonder. The separation between individuals softens. The story becomes a shared inner landscape. This was one of the earliest forms of collective connection. Stories gave shape to shared memory. They carried the triumphs and tragedies of ancestors. They warned of dangers, celebrated heroes, and taught moral principles. Through story, a group became more than a collection of individuals. It became a community with a shared past and a shared vision of the future. Over time, storytelling expanded into ritual. Ritual, like story, was a bridge between individuals, but it worked through the body as much as the mind. Dances, chants, symbolic gestures, seasonal ceremonies, these synchronized movements created physical and emotional unity. When a group moved in harmony, their breathing aligned, their hearts found similar rhythms, their emotions resonated. Ritual transformed belonging into something that could be felt, not just understood. Myths and rituals became the infrastructure of early societies. They shaped laws, social roles, taboos, and celebrations. They provided a framework for understanding one's place in the world. Through myth, people learned who they were. Through ritual, they learned how to be together. As civilizations formed, stories grew more elaborate. Epics, legends, and spiritual narratives emerged, offering deeper layers of meaning. These stories addressed universal themes: courage, love, betrayal, sacrifice, wisdom. They revealed the emotional truths that transcend time and culture. The hero's journey mirrored the internal journey of every person facing adversity. A story of loss reflected the universal ache of grief. A myth of rebirth offered comfort in the face of change. Story became a mirror, showing people their own humanity reflected back through the ages. Community grew around these shared narratives. Temples, gathering places, festivals, all built to bring people into spaces where stories could be shared, embodied, celebrated. This created not only belonging, but purpose. A person was not merely surviving. They were part of a larger tale, something meaningful and enduring. Even today, story remains one of the strongest forces of connection. We bond over movies, books, songs, personal anecdotes. We create identities through the stories we tell about ourselves, who we were, who we are, who we hope to become. In friendships and intimate relationships, trust grows when stories are shared openly, when life becomes a narrative woven between two people. Modern communities, from cultural groups to online networks, still form around shared stories. Beliefs, values, humor, struggle. Narrative shapes belonging just as powerfully now as it did in ancient times. Take a gentle breath here, letting the idea settle. Story is more than entertainment. It is an ancient technology for weaving connection. It has guided our emotions, reinforced our bonds, and helped us understand one another across vast distances and deep differences. But connection is not only built through harmony and shared meaning, it is also shaped by its absence. When the thread of belonging stretches thin, the body and mind feel the strain. When people become separated physically or emotionally, the ache reveals something profound about what connection means. Next, we explore loneliness and separation, the shadow side of connection, and the powerful signals it sends through the human nervous system. Loneliness and separation. If connection is the lifeblood of human experience, loneliness is the echo that sounds when that lifeblood runs thin. It is not simply an emotion, nor merely a passing state. Loneliness is a signal, as ancient and biological as hunger or thirst. It tells the body and brain that something essential is missing, something fundamental to survival, something rooted deep within the evolutionary story of our species. In the ancient world, separation from the group was dangerous. A lone human on the plains faced predators, weather, and hunger without protection. Isolation meant vulnerability. Vulnerability meant risk. And so, over thousands of generations, the human brain evolved to treat disconnection with urgency, to feel it in the body, to react to it as if life itself were at stake. Even today, the nervous system interprets social isolation as a threat. Stress hormones rise, inflammatory pathways activate, sleep becomes restless. The body moves into a subtle state of vigilance, as though scanning for danger invisible to the eye. This reaction makes evolutionary sense. To feel lonely is to feel exposed, unanchored, unprotected. Loneliness, then, is not weakness. It is biology guiding us back towards safety. But loneliness is not only physical absence, it is also the absence of emotional resonance. A person may be surrounded by others in a crowded city, in a busy family, in a digital landscape that never sleeps, and still feel profoundly disconnected. Loneliness arises when there is no felt sense of being understood, valued, or emotionally held. It is the space where mirrors of empathy fade and where the self feels unreflected. In this way, loneliness speaks to an ancient need, not simply to exist among others, but to be known by them. The pain of separation is not metaphorical. Brain imaging studies reveal that the same neural circuits activated by physical pain are activated by social exclusion. A breakup, a fractured friendship, a sense of rejection. These experiences light up regions of the brain that process injury. The heartache is literal, registered in the very architecture of our biology. Yet loneliness also holds a paradox. The same system that makes disconnection painful also makes connection deeply rewarding. The ache reminds us of what matters. It calls us back toward community, toward warmth, toward the spaces where the nervous system and the heart feel held. In the modern world, loneliness has taken on new forms. As populations expand, as digital communication accelerates, as the pace of life grows faster, people paradoxically become more isolated. Traditional community structures shift. Families live farther apart. Friendships must compete with schedules and screens. The tribe has changed shape, and many find themselves longing for the closeness that once came naturally. For some, loneliness appears as a quiet ache. For others, as a sharp, persistent longing. Some experience it after loss. Others feel it despite never losing anyone. It is not always caused by circumstance. Sometimes it arises from early experiences of disconnection, shaping an internal model that expects distance even when closeness is available. And yet, loneliness has another side. It can open a space for reflection, growth, and deeper understanding of what we truly need. It can reveal the parts of ourselves longing to be met. It can motivate us toward vulnerability, toward seeking connection in new ways, toward building relationships more intentionally than before. Take a soft breath here, letting the idea settle gently. Loneliness is not the opposite of connection. It is a reminder of our capacity for connection. It is the shadow that reveals the shape of what we are missing, guiding us back toward belonging. From this place of longing, we naturally arrive at a deeper question. If connection is essential, why is it sometimes so difficult to open ourselves fully to others? Why do we hesitate, protect, guard the soft spaces within? The answer lies in vulnerability, the quiet courage that makes intimacy possible, and the emotional nakedness that can feel both terrifying and transformative. Next, we explore vulnerability and intimacy, the heart of what it means to be seen. Vulnerability and intimacy. To connect deeply with another human being is to open a door into the self, to reveal not only our strengths and joys, but also our uncertainties, fears, and flaws. This opening, this gentle exposing of the inner world is vulnerability, and vulnerability is the foundation upon which true intimacy rests. From the outside, intimacy might look like closeness, affection, or emotional warmth, but beneath those visible layers lies something subtler and far more meaningful. Intimacy is the ability to be known, not the polished version we present to the world, but the honest, unguarded truth of who we are when comfort overcomes fear. For many, vulnerability feels risky. Our ancestors lived in small groups where reputation mattered, where trust was essential, and where betrayal could harm the entire tribe. In those early communities, people were cautious about revealing too much of their inner world to the wrong person. The emotional brain learned to protect itself, to evaluate whether someone was safe before opening fully. Even today, our nervous system responds to vulnerability with heightened awareness. Sharing something personal may quicken the heartbeat, warm the cheeks, tighten the breath. These reactions are not signs of weakness. They are signs of significance. The brain is registering that we are entering a moment where connection could deepen or where rejection could sting. Yet, vulnerability is also the gate through which all meaningful connection flows. Without it, relationships remain shallow, predictable, contained. When people reveal their soft edges, intimacy grows, trust forms, the nervous system relaxes. Two inner worlds begin to overlap, like circles slowly moving toward one another until they share a common center. Imagine two people seated across from each other. One takes a breath, releases a long-held truth, and the room seems to shift. The other person listens, not with judgment, but with presence. In that moment, a bridge forms. A silent understanding rises. This is connection woven through honesty. In friendships, vulnerability is what transforms acquaintances into companions. It begins with small disclosures, a fear, a hope, a moment of doubt, and slowly builds a tapestry of shared emotional truth. Over time, this tapestry becomes a safe landscape where both people can rest. In romantic relationships, vulnerability is the core of emotional closeness. Attraction may ignite the connection, but intimacy sustains it. Sharing dreams, insecurities, past wounds, and inner desires creates an atmosphere of trust that allows love to deepen. Two people begin to feel like partners, not because they never disagree, but because they can bring their full selves into the relationship without fear of being dismissed. Even within families, vulnerability is what strengthens generational bonds. Parents who share their hopes and hardships teach children that emotion is human. Siblings who admit mistakes or offer honesty during conflict learn to value authenticity over perfection. Vulnerability becomes the quiet language that keeps families connected through seasons of change. But vulnerability is not only about revealing pain, it is also about expressing joy. Happiness, when shared openly, is a form of emotional exposure. To reveal excitement, pride, or affection is to trust that someone will not diminish or ridicule those emotions. In many ways, joy can be just as vulnerable as sorrow. And vulnerability is reciprocal. When one person opens, another often feels an instinctive softening, as though their defenses drop without conscious effort. This reciprocity builds intimacy, not through grand gestures, but through small, consistent acts of emotional bravery. Still, vulnerability carries a risk. Sometimes it is met with misunderstanding, dismissal, or withdrawal. These experiences leave impressions that make us cautious. A person who has been hurt may learn to hide their inner world. They may build emotional armor, not because they lack the desire for closeness, but because closeness once felt dangerous. Yet even in these protective patterns, the deeper truth remains. Humans long for intimacy. We long to be seen and accepted. We long for a place where our inner world can rest safely in the presence of another. Take a gentle breath here. Let it fall into a natural rhythm. Vulnerability may feel fragile, but it is also a profound strength. It is the courage to be real, the courage to let another heart witness our own. And because relationships are made of human beings, imperfect, emotional, ever-changing, even the deepest connections encounter moments of rupture. Misunderstandings, conflict, distance, and hurt are inevitable. But these moments do not define the end of connection. Instead, they invite a new phase of the relational journey. We now turn to the art of healing bonds, the quiet, powerful work of repair and reconnection. Repair and reconnection. In every meaningful relationship, there comes a moment when the thread of connection stretches thin. A misunderstanding sharpens into tension. A careless word wounds. Silence grows heavy between two people who once felt close. This is not a sign of failure. It is a reflection of our humanity. Where there is vulnerability, where two inner worlds meet and intertwine, there will inevitably be friction. What matters is not the rupture itself, but what happens next. Repair is one of the most powerful forms of connection. It is the process through which relationships become not weaker, but stronger, more resilient, more truthful. Through repair, two people learn that they can face emotional storms and still find their way back to one another. At the heart of repair is acknowledgement, a moment when one or both people pause, breathe, and recognize the tension for what it is. Not a threat, but a signal. Not the collapse of closeness, but the beginning of understanding. Conflict is often the emotional body's way of saying, something important is here. Something needs attention. Imagine two friends who have grown distant after a misunderstanding. Perhaps one felt unheard. Perhaps the other felt criticized. Beneath the surface, emotion simmers disappointment, frustration, sadness. Then one reaches out. A message, a phone call, a quiet invitation to talk. This simple gesture carries profound meaning. It says, I value this. I want to understand you. I want to return to the space where we felt connected. This is how repair begins. In the brain, reconnection activates circuits associated with safety and trust. The act of coming back together counters the instinct to retreat. When repair is approached with openness, not defensiveness, not blame, the body softens. Stress hormones decline. Oxytocin rises. Empathy awakens. The nervous system begins to settle into relational harmony once more. Apology plays an important role, but only when it is genuine. A true apology is not merely an admission of wrongdoing. It is a reflection of care. A way of saying, your experience matters to me. The impact I had matters. I want to understand it so that we can move forward differently. But repair is not only about words, it is about presence. Listening without interrupting. Allowing pauses. Allowing emotion to exist without needing to immediately fix it. Sometimes the most healing moment in a connection comes when one person feels safe enough to express hurt while the other remains steady, open, and receptive. Reconnection requires empathy, the ability to sense not only what another person feels, but why they feel it, to step temporarily into their world, to see the moment through their eyes. When empathy flows, defensiveness dissolves. The desire to protect oneself becomes the desire to protect the relationship. There is also a kind of repair that is quiet and unspoken. After conflict resolves, simple acts of kindness restore the emotional bridge. A shared laugh, a small gesture of care, a return to familiar rhythms. These subtle exchanges re-establish trust at the level of the nervous system. In long-term relationships, friendships, partnerships, families' cycles of rupture and repair become the natural heartbeat of connection. Each repair strengthens the bond, teaching both people that they can survive tension and emerge with a deeper understanding. This resilience allows relationships to endure, evolve, and adapt through the seasons of life. Yet not all wounds heal easily. Some require time, patience, honesty with oneself. Emotional patterns from childhood may shape how we move through conflict. Someone who grew up in a home where emotions were dismissed may freeze during disagreement. Someone who learned to anticipate rejection may become anxious when tension arises. Understanding these patterns in ourselves and in others is essential to meaningful repair. Take a moment here. Let the breath fall softly. Notice how every relationship you have ever valued has been shaped not only by harmony, but by the brave, vulnerable work of returning after disconnection. This returning, this choosing to understand, is one of the deepest forms of love. From the ancient world to modern life, the need for reconnection has remained constant. But the landscape of connection has changed dramatically. Technology, global mobility, digital communication. These forces have reshaped how we bond, how we communicate, and how we experience both closeness and distance. As we move forward, we step into the complexities of life today. The paradox of being more connected than ever, yet often feeling profoundly alone. The shifting nature of modern relationships. The new opportunities and new challenges that define our era. Next, we explore connection in modern life. Connection in modern life. In the span of human history, the world of today is astonishingly new. For hundreds of thousands of years, connection meant physical presence, shared labor, shared meals, shared silence beneath open skies. The tribe was felt through touch, voice, and the subtle synchrony of bodies moving together. But now, in a world shaped by rapid technology and immense population growth, the landscape of connection has shifted in profound and unexpected ways. Modern life offers a paradox. We are more connected than any generation before us. Messages travel across continents in seconds. Photographs, ideas, stories, and emotions can be shared instantly with people we may never meet in person. Our networks have expanded beyond anything our ancestors could have imagined. And yet, Despite this immense web of digital proximity, feelings of loneliness have grown more widespread. The human brain, sculpted for small tribal communities, built to read subtle facial cues and respond to tone and touch, now navigates a world saturated with screens and rapid-fire communication. Digital messages remove the richness of in-person interaction. A text lacks the warmth of a voice. An online profile reveals fragments, but rarely the whole truth of a person's inner experience. The nervous system, designed for embodied social life, must interpret connection in forms it never evolved to understand. Yet, technology is not inherently disconnecting. It is a tool, powerful, neutral, shaped by how we use it. For many, digital spaces offer belonging they never found in their immediate surroundings. Communities form across distances. Shared interests bring strangers together. People connect through creative expression, shared struggles, and meaningful conversations. The modern world has made it possible to build tribes of the mind and heart, transcending geography and circumstance. Still, challenges remain. The pace of communication can create emotional fatigue. Constant notifications fragment attention. Social media often amplifies comparison, presenting curated images of others' lives that trigger insecurities born from ancient instincts, the instinct to assess one's place in the social hierarchy. These comparisons can erode self-esteem, distort perception, and artificially widen the emotional distance between people. In modern relationships, the abundance of options can also create confusion. Dating cultures shaped by apps and algorithms offer endless possibilities, yet this abundance can dilute commitment, settling attention into a cycle of searching rather than building. The brain, designed to detect small groups and long-term bonds, becomes overwhelmed by the sense that connection is abundant yet fragile. But modern life also brings extraordinary opportunities for connection. People can maintain friendships across oceans. Families separated by circumstance can share daily intimacy through video calls. Long-distance love, once nearly impossible, can now flourish with consistent communication. For many, the digital world is not a substitute for connection, but an extension of it. At the same time, the pace and pressure of contemporary living often leave little space for slow, meaningful moments. Connection requires time, presence, attention. Yet modern schedules push people toward constant productivity, leaving little room for the deep relational investments that once formed naturally within communal living. This creates a longing not for more people, but for deeper contact. A desire to sit with someone without distraction, to share silence without discomfort, to feel felt, to feel understood, to feel that one's inner world matters beyond screens and surface exchanges. Urban environments shape connection too. Cities gather millions in close physical proximity, yet many feel emotionally isolated. Surrounded by strangers, people may struggle to build relationships that offer stability and continuity. The instinctive warmth of village life, where faces were familiar and roles were clear, has been replaced by anonymity. Loneliness grows not from being alone, but from being unseen. And yet, humans adapt. In parks, cafes, workplaces, creative communities, spiritual groups, and digital spaces, new forms of belonging emerge. People seek connection in smaller circles, chosen families, close friendships, meaningful partnerships. The modern tribe may be smaller, more intentionally crafted, but no less powerful. Take a soft breath here. Let it settle like a gentle reminder. Amid the complexity of modern life, the ancient need for connection remains steady. The longing is the same as it was thousands of years ago to be understood, to be valued, to belong. And for many, this longing extends beyond human relationships. Across cultures and eras, humans have reached towards something larger, towards spiritual connection, existential meaning, and the sense that we are part of a greater whole. Next, we step into the expansive realm of spiritual and existential connection, exploring how our search for belonging extends to the universe itself. Spiritual and existential connection. Beyond the bonds we form with family, friends, partners, and communities, there exists a deeper dimension of connection, a sense of belonging not just to other people, but to existence itself. Across cultures, across centuries, and across continents, humans have reached towards something vast and unseen, something that speaks not only to the mind, but to the heart, the imagination, and the soul. This spiritual and existential longing is not an anomaly. It is one of humanity's oldest instincts. Long before organized religion emerged, early humans looked to the sky in wonder. They watched the sun rise and fall, felt the rhythm of seasons, heard thunder roll across open plains, and sensed a presence in the natural world that stirred awe and curiosity. That feeling, the sense of being part of something larger, something interconnected, became the seed of spiritual awareness. Awe plays a central role in this experience. When we stand before a vast mountain, or gaze at a night sky scattered with stars, or listen to the ocean's endless pulse, something shifts inside us. The boundaries of the self loosen, the noise of daily life fades. For a moment, we feel small and yet profoundly connected, as though the universe itself is both immense and intimate. This feeling of unity is not just poetic, it has biological roots. In moments of awe, the brain quiets regions involved in self-focus. The sense of I softens, making space for a feeling of we, or even oneness. The nervous system enters a state of openness. Time feels slower. Emotion becomes expansive. Even a single breath can feel part of a much larger rhythm. Across cultures, spiritual traditions have emerged around this sense of connection. In ancient India, the concept of Brahman described a universal consciousness, the interconnected fabric of all things. In indigenous cultures, the natural world was understood as alive with spirit, every tree, river, and animal part of a sacred web. In East Asian philosophy, harmony between self and nature became a guiding principle for wisdom and balance. In Abrahamic traditions, humans found belonging in the idea of a divine presence, guiding and holding creation. Although the languages differ, the essence is the same. Humans seek not only social connection, but existential connection. To feel that their life fits within a greater story, that their joys, struggles, and relationships are threads within a cosmic tapestry. Even those who do not follow spiritual traditions often experience a deep, intuitive sense of belonging to something larger, the continuity of life, the mystery of consciousness, the lineage of ancestors, the unfolding of the natural world. There is comfort in knowing that we are part of a long, unbroken chain of humanity, stretching backward and forward in time. Modern science, too, deepens this understanding. The atoms in our bodies were forged in the cores of ancient stars. Our biology is inseparable from the earth that sustains it. Our minds are shaped by evolution, woven from the same forces that shaped every other living creature. We are not separate from the universe. We are expressions of it. This sense of unity can soothe loneliness in profound ways. Even in moments when human connection feels distant, the awareness of belonging to existence, to nature, to the cosmos, to the flow of life, can bring grounding and peace. Meditative practices amplify this feeling. Slow breathing, quiet attention, and mindful presence open the mind to a sense of spaciousness. The constant internal story softens, allowing a deeper connection to emerge, one that is not dependent on words or logic, but felt through awareness. Rituals, too, create spiritual connection. Lighting a candle, singing in a group, gathering for communal meals, marking transitions with ceremony, these acts unify individuals within a shared emotional rhythm. They remind us that we are not isolated selves moving through separate journeys, but part of a collective life that pulses through every generation. Existential connection also touches the question of meaning. Humans are storytellers by design. We seek coherence, purpose, and direction. The longing for connection often includes the longing for a life that feels significant, not in terms of achievement, but in terms of relationships, contributions, and the imprint we leave on others. Meaning arises when our lives intersect with something larger. When we feel part of a lineage, a community, a cause, a spiritual path, a family, a creative tradition, or even a moment of shared humanity. In this way, connection is not merely emotional or relational. It is existential. It shapes how we understand ourselves in the vast landscape of time and possibility. Take a slow breath here, letting the awareness settle. Spiritual connection is not a belief. It is an experience. A sense of belonging that transcends the individual self and stretches into something timeless, expansive, and deeply reassuring. And as we stand in this vastness, we turn our attention to the horizon ahead. Humanity is entering a new era, one shaped by rapid technological innovation, global interconnection, and shifting forms of relationship. The instinct to connect remains the same, but the world around us is transforming. Next, we explore the future of connection, how our bonds may evolve, how AI and global culture will shape our emotional landscape, and why the need for closeness will remain at the heart of what it means to be human. The future of connection. As humanity steps into an era of extraordinary transformation, the ways we relate, communicate, and build bonds are shifting once again. Technology rewires our attention. Cultures blend and expand. Artificial intelligence becomes woven into daily life. Borders between communities soften as global networks grow. And yet, beneath all these changes, the ancient longing for connection endures unchanged, steady as a heartbeat, constant as breath. To understand the future of connection, we must return to a simple truth. Human beings have always adapted their social instincts to the tools, environments, and challenges of their time. From the early tribes gathered around firelight to the vast civilizations built upon common stories, we have repeatedly reshaped the architecture of belonging. Today is no different, but the pace is unprecedented. Artificial intelligence, for example, now plays a role in how people learn, work, communicate, and even cope with loneliness. Some fear that technology may replace human connection, but the deeper truth is more subtle. Technology does not diminish our need for each other. It reveals it, it magnifies it. It exposes the gaps where connection is missing and offers new ways to bridge them. AI companions, therapeutic chat systems, and emotionally attuned digital agents are becoming a part of daily life. They can offer comfort, information, or presence when human support feels out of reach. They can remind us of our needs, help us express ourselves, or provide gentle companionship in moments of solitude. But rather than replacing human bonds, these technologies may serve as bridges tools that help people practice vulnerability, soothe anxiety, or gather courage to connect more deeply with real people. In the global arena, cultural boundaries are dissolving. People from vastly different regions can share ideas, collaborate creatively, and form friendships that would have been impossible a generation ago. This blending of cultures enriches the emotional landscape of humanity. It invites empathy across differences, encourages curiosity, and expands the meaning of community. In this evolving world, connection becomes not only personal, but planetary. Yet challenges also rise with this expanded scope. The speed of digital communication sometimes outpaces emotional processing. People may react quickly, speak impulsively, misunderstand one another, or feel overwhelmed by the sheer volume of social input. The nervous system, built for slow, natural rhythms, must navigate rapid exchanges that offer stimulation, but not always depth. In the future, one of our greatest challenges will be reclaiming the spaces where deep connection can breathe. Now, this may involve redefining community. Instead of relying on geography alone, people will form relationship circles around shared values, interests, emotional needs, and long-term support. These smaller, more intentional communities may become the modern equivalent of the ancient tribe offering belonging in a world too large to navigate alone. Connection in the future will also be influenced by shifting family structures. Some people will build families through friendship networks rather than traditional roles. Others will create multi-generational households, communal living arrangements, or partnerships that reflect emotional needs more than cultural expectations. The essence of family mutual care, emotional safety, and meaningful bonds will remain, but its shapes will multiply. And as humanity becomes increasingly aware of mental health, emotional intelligence will play a central role in relationships. Children may grow up learning how to name their feelings, how to navigate conflict, how to repair after rupture, and how to cultivate empathy. Future generations may be emotionally equipped in ways our ancestors could never imagine. Technology will also offer new tools to enhance connection. Virtual reality may allow people separated by oceans to sit together in simulated spaces, reading each other's body language and tone with stunning accuracy. Wearable devices may help partners understand each other's stress levels. AI may help translate emotion across languages, cultures, or neurodiversity. The forms of connection may change, but the longing beneath them remains timeless. As climate change, global conflict, and the pressures of modern life reshape society, connection will become not just beneficial, but essential. Communities that support one another will survive. People who build meaningful relationships will find resilience. The future may challenge us, but connection will anchor us. Take a slow breath here, letting the vision of tomorrow settle gently in the mind. The future of connection is not dystopian or utopian. It is human. It carries the same emotional DNA we inherited from our ancestors, expressed through new tools, new environments, and new stories. And now, having journeyed through evolution, biology, culture, emotion, and imagination, we arrive at the final reflection. A soft, expansive pause to gather the threads of this exploration, to understand not only why we seek connection, but how deeply it defines our lives. Closing reflections. Connection is the quiet force that has shaped humanity from its earliest beginnings. It is present in the instinct of a newborn reaching for warmth. It is present in the tribe gathered beneath an ancient sky, sharing food, story, and purpose. It is present in the laughter of friends, the tenderness of lovers, the solidarity of communities, and the stillness of those who seek meaning beneath the stars. It lives in the nervous system, in the architecture of the brain, in the pathways shaped by millions of years of survival. It lives in the body's response to touch, in the warmth of a shared gaze, in the chemistry that deepens trust and dissolves fear. It lives in the stories we create, the rituals we uphold, and the myths that help us understand our place in the world. Connection is woven into identity, into memory, into every decision that shapes the trajectory of a life. It is the quiet wish behind every hope, the longing beneath every loneliness, the comfort within every moment of true understanding. It is both fragile and resilient, requiring vulnerability, yet granting strength. It is the thread that binds joy to sorrow, past to future, self to other. As we look back across the long arc of this journey from evolution's earliest whispers to the complexities of modern life, one truth becomes unmistakable. To be human is to seek connection, not out of dependency, but out of design. Not out of fear, but out of the deep recognition that our existence is relational at every level. No one walks through life untouched by this longing. Even those who fear intimacy carry the imprint of early connection. Even those who choose solitude retain the biological inheritance of community. Even those who have been hurt by relationships still feel the quiet pull to be understood, to be valued, to belong. Take a gentle breath here. Let it fall into a soft rhythm, a moment of presence within the vast story that has unfolded. Connection is not something we earn. It is something we remember. A return to the truth that we are part of a lineage stretching back through time, a lineage of people who survived because they reached for one another. A lineage of hearts shaped by touch, by empathy, by the courage to reveal one's inner world. And as the world continues to change, as technology reshapes how we communicate, as cultures blend and evolve, the core remains constant. The hunger for connection persists. The possibility for closeness endures. Every conversation, every kindness, every act of understanding becomes a small moment of repair for the collective human story. Perhaps the deepest truth of all is this. Connection is not only something we seek from others, it is something we cultivate within ourselves. The ability to offer presence, to listen, to empathize, to open gently, to forgive, to understand. These are the practices that keep the ancient thread alive. As we conclude this exploration, imagine the long chain of human lives that led to this moment. Ancestors who gathered, held, protected, loved, grieved, celebrated, and hoped. We are their continuation. Their dreams echo in our longing for closeness. Their resilience echoes in our ability to heal. Their tenderness echoes in every bond we form. Connection is the story of humanity. It is the story of every heart. It is the story still unfolding in each of us. And as this journey comes to a close, allow a quiet gratitude to bloom for the connections you have known, the ones you have yet to discover, and the vast, unseen web of belonging that holds all of us within its gentle reach.